Hi, everybody. My name is George Brown. I'm the Executive Director of the Highlights Foundation. It's been great just to see the outpouring of community and the connection from these sessions we've been having. So thank you all for being a part of that. Um, Allison, will you
Yes,
take us
so
away, please?
welcome. Yes, I'm Allison Green Myers. I'm the program director here at the Highlights Foundation, and we are grateful to have you all here for our next installment of the HF Gather. We are grateful to have Sarah Aronson and Padma Venkatraman here with us this morning too, to talk about creativity, but of course, with the two of them to also talk about heart in story. Sarah and Padma are just generous teachers that we're lucky enough to work with throughout the year, and very gifted storytellers. I love hearing about people experiencing, just like Rube Goldberg, Sarah's nonfiction picture book right now, and their kiddos creating Rube Goldberg fantastic things all over their house, creations, and that's wonderful. And Padma, of course, her beautiful book in the background there, The Bridge Home. I know so many of you have probably read that book already on your own, but I might challenge you while we are home now to also listen to it from Audible, because Padma does the reading there and it is stunning. It is absolutely beautiful. So we're so happy to have you both with us and happy to have our 300 best friends here with us as well this morning. And I'll turn things over to the two of you. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Allison and George. It's an honor. I don't know, I'm humbled. It was the highlight of my life, of my week last week, to be able to chat with Tara and now to be able to chat with Padma and to talk about those 3 C's: creativity, curiosity, and community. Seeing all your chats on the side is fantastic. It is just making my heart filled with joy. If you have questions, please put them in the Q&A, so that this week we're going to try and leave some time for more of your questions to be answered live. So please put them in the questions side, not in the chat side, because it's going to be harder for us to find it. Now, Padma, close your eyes, please. Today's word of the day is this. All right, Padma, you can open your eyes again. Every time Padma says that word, you're allowed to drink your tea or coffee, okay? We'll see what a good predictor I am. So anyway, without further ado, I'd like to welcome Padma Venkatraman to the HF Gather. She is the author of my favorite book of last year, The Bridge Home, which garnered 8 starred reviews, has been honored as one of the best books by Kirkus, the New York Public Library, Chicago Library, and the SCBWI Golden Kite. The Bridge Home is also the recipient of a Walter Award through the We Need Diverse Books organization, and was a global read aloud for 2019. And in the Sarah Aronson Awards, it's a 5-tissue easily book. And that's using your tissues a few times over. Please read her book, please, and her other books too, which are also wonderful. Padma and I have been friends for a number of years. We were lucky enough to meet, I guess, through SCBWI.
Yeah, I think so.
And, in the days of Live Journal, before
Yes.
any of this. So this is really a privilege for me. So let's start by talking about those C's in this time of uncertainty and coronavirus. Let's talk about your process these days. How are you doing, and how's your writing going?
The first thing I have to say is, actually, this is very personal. My husband is out at sea, so I'm solo parenting, so I haven't been doing a whole lot of writing. However, in theory. I think for me, one of the nice things is, we were talking about uncertainty before everyone came on, Sarah, and you spoke about the fact that, you don't like uncertainty. In a way, for me, though, that's freeing because I feel like I can write anything. I can write whatever because who knows who will be acquiring what at the end of this and when. And
Right.
it gives me a certain sort of freedom. And I think that's a nice thing to enjoy or try to enjoy in this very, there are some very difficult times that all of us are going through as well. So there's that aspect of things. There's another, it's also making me go back to some things that are quite strange. My mother actually lived through plague scares in India when she was growing up. Under the British rule, and there were epidemics where people actually died, in droves in India. And so she'd spoken about some of that, and I just know that in a very deep way and in a very serious way, I think that will come out at some point in my work. And just the fact that I know someone my own mother, who's actually lived through something terrible, that this could have been. I'm not saying it's not, but it could have been so much worse.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something to sort of keep in mind always. Just what we have to be grateful for.
We really do have much to be grateful for. And actually, I've been more proud of us as a community than I think I ever have before. I think that when we see that people really do have skin in the game, when that we really do care about each other and that we're willing to help each other during this time, during this time of isolation, but really anytime anyone's having a hard time. This community has held each other up many, many times, and we're doing a wonderful job now. And I think the hardest part is feeling like you're not doing enough. I want to say to everyone, we're all doing enough, and remember to be kind to yourself as well, because we all really do need to be kind to ourselves. I also think that creativity and writing takes many forms during this time of uncertainty. And so I think that, like, I saw a picture of you near some water with your daughter. And I'm going to say you weren't writing, but I bet your brain was swirling.
It was. And I think, one of the things that I've really enjoyed these past few days is just the one-on-one time that I have with her. I don't know, it's to walk outside, to have this very interesting situation in which the first 3 days actually that I took walks, I was yelled at all 3 days. We were yelled at, I should say, the two of us. And my daughter was absolutely shocked. And she said, "Mom, what's going on?" And so, that was very interesting since then. And then I posted something about it and I took it down because there was enough said, I thought. And I didn't want to promote just that negative side of things. So there's that's also happened that we need to think about. So there's these two very sort of such an extreme time, right? You see the worst of human beings sometimes come out with people running around yelling at you because of what you look like, and then deciding, anyway, that's somehow, who knows what. And then you have, when we take walks now, people that you don't know just smiling from across the distance and trying to bridge that gap. And again, highlights you, all of us are doing that as well. I think, so in that same way, I think even in, when we sit back in our own rooms and think of creativity, to think of everything and to see those different sides is important. The negative aspects, what you're grateful for, what you're really happy about, what you're not so happy about. And also that whole being able to stay by yourself can be such a wonderful thing for creativity. And then to connect like this as a community is wonderful too. So all of that.
I think that, right now in the project I'm working on, what I'm really noticing is getting comfortable with myself and slowing down and looking inward much more than maybe I have done for the last year that I was conscious of. My subconscious is really leading the way in during this last week. Something you said earlier is like, we don't know what the market is going to do. So all we should be doing now is writing things that make us happy, that feed our souls, that means something to us. This is our opportunity, actually, to take that contradiction of people being the worst and people doing the best and coming together. So it is, I think it's going to be an extraordinary time for literature. I would really like to just talk a little bit about The Bridge Home, because The Bridge Home is a book about some children living through terrible times. And of all the questions that I got during this week was about getting into that kind of world and really entering the dream and starting the draft when things are uncertain outside. So if you could speak a little bit to that, about how you embodied those voices.
I think one of the hardest things to do, and it's different for everyone, is to get in touch with those places that are the most vulnerable inside you. And the first thing I want to say about that is, The Bridge Home is my fourth novel, right? It took me a long time to get to the place that I felt comfortable to do that. And so maybe that's the place from which some of our best work comes. That said, you need to be able to look after yourself. So I would first say to everyone, if you are going to write about something that is vulnerable, that's something that you know is going to take you back into places that are really difficult, then please know that maybe it will come out at the right time. Please take precautions to make sure you feel safe. Don't indulge in that sort of exploration unless you feel in a place where you are safe and you are held, a place where you can reach out to someone, to reach out to different sources of support, because that kind of emotional trauma, if you're going to get back in touch with it, can be devastating. So the first thing I have to say to everyone is this: it doesn't matter whether you write the great American novel or not. What matters is that you keep this life that you've been given in as precious and nurturing a way as possible.
Yeah.
So before you begin that sort of a journey, please take care of your emotional space. I mean, that's the first most important thing that I want to say. After that, it is really hard. It was really hard for me to get into that space and to relive really some of the childhood trauma that I'd experienced. Now, when I say this, I have to be very clear that the trauma that I experienced is nothing close to the trauma that the children in the Bridge Home experience, in that briefly, the Bridge Home is about 4 homeless kids in India, and they don't have any sort of adult support. My parents split up, which was very unusual in India. My father is not a kind human being, he's very violent. There's not just him. There are men in my family who are violent. So all of that, and not just women, also being violent. So there's a lot of violence in my family that's suppressed. All of that had to come through. But I think what helped me to get there was that I was in a place that I felt that I could get in touch with it and also stop it and get out of it when I needed to. And to me, it's still not my memoir. I was talking to Laurie Helsa Anderson, and she and Nikki Grimes and Margarita Engel were talking about, well, why don't I write a memoir someday? But I feel like sometimes when you do something like that, which is so terribly personal, Laurie waited for such a long time to write her memoir, and it's so brilliant. Shout is brilliant. It's incredible. It's an amazing book. But she waited, and I think you need to wait till you're in that secure space.
I mean, I'm really thinking of the whole, the group exercise that we were all going through right now, slowing down, is really like, in some ways, this is the life I wanted to live. Is that I wanted to be thoughtful and slow and to engage with those harder places, and to be honest with my own emotions and my heart, and that it is only with this time, even in this last week, where I've realized that even when my book is funny, where am I tapping into? Even when the book is made up, where are those emotions coming from? And to be comfortable with that uncertainty and comfortable with those contradictions is what is helping me to explore some new stories in a brand new way that I would never, that I had not thought about before.
Yeah, and the one thing actually was, as you said that, two things. The first is this: we are speaking about a time when we have, the potential to be sort of in our own little writer woods,
Yeah.
which is lovely, but we're not all doing that. I know that last week I felt sort of pulled in 50,000 different directions because so many people were wanting me to do this, that, and the other, and learn new technology. And there's always, even today, even in this environment, there are so many distractions. You can spend all your days trying and trying and trying to do too much. And I think you need to see, to me, it's always been very important as a writer, not to indulge in competition, but to indulge in community. And the two are different. How do you engage in community without involving yourself in competition? And that's a line that each of us do differently. And I think you have to find that line and find that balance in yourself. Nobody can tell you where that is, but you need to sense that and find it, because even today, even in this situation, because of technology, you can be doing too much. So that, that's one thing that I want to say. The other thing, though, in terms of contrast and getting into those, difficult spaces in your life, what helped me with the bridge home was that as a child, I went through all sorts of awful things, but I remember thinking always, no one can make me cry. And I always will have the power to laugh. And that really, I do remember that. One of the hardest memories that I have, I just remember thinking, you can do anything, you cannot make me cry. And I think that's something that shows up in the bridge home, and in whatever way you can. It doesn't have to show up on the page, but to see sometimes, maybe to some people, it might be the funnier side of things. There is a lot of humor in the bridge home. There's a lot of jokes and funniness and silliness in the bridge home, in part because the friends that I met on whom the bridge home is based were funny and they were silly and they were kids. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, they were kids. They laughed about burping, There's that scene in the bridge home where they do that. And I think so it came from that. And to me, that is being a survivor. That's how I defined myself as a survivor, was the fact that I laughed through everything and I saw myself as a survivor. I never see myself as a victim, And so I think that's important. And I think if we can hold on to that, for some other people, it may be, and they're not mutually exclusive, but what shows up on the page more is gratitude. Arul, one of the characters in the bridge home, he's not particularly funny, but he is so grateful. And I think that's very important too, to me. And in his case, it's his faith, his deep faith, that carries him through. And, another thing that I wanted to say, and I will say to all of us here, is some of us have faith that is in a certain religion. Some of us have a faith or a sense of spirituality that is not religious and nevertheless exists. And some of us have sort of a morality that has nothing to do with religion and spirituality, which also the bridge home talks about, right? Viji, the narrator, has nothing to do with religion and wants nothing to do with religion. And I think, in a sense, what we're going through now asks us to just see where we are. And it doesn't matter where you are. I sincerely feel like we're all like different rivers that take our own path to one great ocean, both in terms of writing and both in terms of who we are as human beings, And to me, that's important.
I think this idea of joy in the face of adversity embodies everything that I wanted to in a book, and everything that I want to read as a reader. That as a teacher, when I come upon a scene where the character is weeping, and it's not the very end, I immediately circle it and say, when your character cries, I don't have to. I can sit
Right.
back and watch. When I read joy, like in your book, joy in the face of adversity, connection, community, jokes in the face of adversity, then the weeping commences, because this is how we want to live our lives. And this is what we want to glean from literature, is to be higher people. I also think, just, because we talk about religion a lot between the two of us, my favorite word in the Torah is hineni, here I am, which is, just the best. It's just to declare yourself, here I am. That's how I have been starting my writing day. Hineni, here I am. What do I want to say today? My other favorite moment in the Torah is when Sarah laughs, because everything seems to be going badly, and now she's pregnant at this very old age, and she bursts out into laughter. And that is the most human response to adversity that there possibly is. So I love that is that is common for all of us, as when we can believe, when we can smile, when we smile, we can be stronger.
Right.
Hineni is Hebrew.
Yeah.
Biblical Hebrew. I don't think it is conversational Hebrew.
No, I do want to say one thing. I mean, self-pity is also a human emotion. And I just want all of us indulge in that. We throw our pity parties, we get self-obsessed, and we get stupid and selfish. And, that's okay in small measures. So in A Time to Dance, which is my verse novel, which is about a girl ultimately, getting in touch with her own spirituality and all of that through dance, she loses her leg, which is terrible. And she does indulge in self-pity. Now, if it had been that she never did that, and she was this wonderful spiritually involved being that went on and didn't do anything, then I'm sorry, it wouldn't be realistic. But when you come to those places in your novels, then keep them short. We get it. And I think that's important. When you're there, you have to, I think, to have a character who is rounded. Yes, there will be times when they are selfish. Yes, there will be times when they indulge in self-pity. Yes, there will be times when they do really silly things. Yes, there was actually. And that dancer, sorry, I just saw this little chat box pop up about a dancer who had a prosthesis. And that shows up in my novel. But all of these things, yes. So when these moments appear, when your characters are unlikable, have them in there, but limit them.
Right. Well, the unlikability is really, this is something that when I'm writing YA, which I haven't for a while, but even I have a middle grade novel that I just sent to my agent, fingers crossed, that I'm sure she's not watching, but fingers crossed.
Eyes crossed.
Right. That unlikability versus interesting is this really fine line. And it's a fine line that I feel like I grapple with all the time, because will my voice translate into likability in the reader when I am not there? So especially like in Head Case, which was my first novel, as I originally wrote that in verse, bad verse. The first thing that Marion Dane Bauer said to me was, do you really have to write this in this verse? And I was like, wait a minute, I just did this grand experiment. And she's like, honey, this book is going in prose. And then Kathy Appelt said, honey, I love you, but this book is going in prose. And so then I learned how to write sparse prose. I always think of the book Tending to Grace was really a really great mentor text for me during that time, to look at those short prose. And I think that that was always the key to that book, was how to make it not so bitter, is that we want characters who are going through deep, dark problems, that the stakes must be high, that they must care about what is happening to them and the obstacles that they confront them, that it must hit them here, that it has to come from here. It can't come just from here. This is interesting, but this is where we start to love the character. And so that made it impossible just to write the book chronologically. Because if we only saw this character in a wheelchair, mad, there was not enough space to grow. We needed to see him before. And that was a real turning point for me. How I did that was I wrote a whole novel as a trial. It just really, I have to dig it up someday.
Yeah, I mean, I do that a lot. And so, I was talking to someone else recently. My novels, I think my first novel, Climbing the Stairs, I rewrote Climbing the Stairs 3 times over, start to finish. The first time it was a diary voice, and I suddenly realized that the diary was just too small. I mean, the camera was just too close up. So
Right.
then I wrote the whole thing in third person, right? Start to finish in third person. And I just realized that was far too distant a view. And then I rewrote it in first person, but not a diary. And that was just the right way to write that particular novel. And so sometimes it's experimentation. 1 second though, I saw a lot of things flashing up on the chat box. Kimberly Newton-Fusco is the one who wrote Tending to Grace, another mentor text that I would really love to just put out there, because it's also lean spar prose, which you mentioned, Sarah, is Carolyn Coleman's What Jamie Saw.
Well,
and that's a brilliant book. It's like poetry, and it's lean spare prose.
Carolyn Coleman is the teacher that taught me how to storyboard, and taught me how to. I now say, when I give that lecture, I say I am now posing as Carolyn Coleman, and I will, if I can be 30% Carolyn Coleman, I'm doing a great job, because she was just amazing.
Sarah, can I
Let's
just jump in
her today? See how
I want to. Yes, but Sarah, can I just say one thing that you do so well, which I love, and I hope I always will do, and I hope everyone will do, is when you use someone else's work, or when you are inspired by someone else's idea and you use it, you always provide credit. And that's something I always try to do as well. And I think it's very important, especially at this time when everyone is being so kind and sharing their work, that if we use someone else's idea, if we take from that, then we give them all due credit. That is terribly important to me, that we do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, just when we think about the community of learning, that, that a lot of our ideas overlap. And a lot of our ideas, a lot of what we think are original ideas often come from the learning that we have done from others. And by honoring our teachers, I mean, to be able to honor Carolyn is one of the most, spiritual things I can do. Between her and Kathy, that they helped give me a path to becoming a writer, and to embrace my own voice and my own confidence. Another C word that we don't always talk about, because we're often trying to be, we're humble, but confidence doesn't have to be braggy and bossy, just as the extrovert must say, that confidence is knowing that you have something to say, and that you want to say it, and that you can be the person to say it. And that is what Carolyn and Kathy and many, many others gave to me, was that confidence that I could do this work, and that I had something to say. It's such a gift. It's such a gift. So yes, and I hope that we can all leave here today writing down, this is what I want to say, and I am the person who can say it.
And when you say that, there's something that I just was thinking of. So sometimes what happens, again, and I think in a way this relates to competition a little bit, is is when you use a mentor text, right? Once in a while, I've had people say things like, well, I read that and I threw my work against the wall. Please don't ever throw your work against the wall. And I think that's so important. When you read something you love, let it be like this gorgeous view. Let it be like you walking across the ocean, and you see the ocean. You haven't created the ocean, and you are just there, and you are just there with that awe, and you sit with it, and then you leave and you go off. And you do your own thing. But I think that's so important that you see this and you say, this is gorgeous. This is like this wonderful painting. I'm in a museum. There are so many lovely paintings, and I'm going to add my own. And there will be people who will walk past mine. Have that confidence, and don't compare yourself and say like, mine will never be like so-and-so's, because it never will be. It will never be like someone else's. It should not be like someone else's. It should be like your own. And I think that's so hard, but that's important as well, that we say, here's who I am. I'm going to do my best, and that's it. I'm not going.
Admit it to the world,
and I don't control what happens.
Right. So control, another C word, is like that. When we let go of the things we cannot control, and we say, here I am, to do what I can control and to give what I can give. Then I am filled with awe. The word awesome has sort of fallen down in what its original intent. When we are filled with awe, we are listening. That's another thing that this time period is giving me in particular, time to listen. Time to, somebody just said, appreciate the view. Time to gather in my thoughts and slow down and think about them. And when I slow down and start thinking about what I have to say with confidence, then I'm not comparing.
Right.
I'm being inspired by. When I read a beautiful book, I'm inspired to try harder. When I come up with an idea that I think I'm not ready for, I never throw it against the wall. I say, what an awesome thing that I might be able to do. I am going to try.
Yeah.
I'm going to shift over to our lightning round. Do you know that you did not say the word that I chose?
Really? Okay, can I guess what word it might be? Hey, listen, shall I guess? Oh, I thought you were going to say compassion, maybe.
No, I almost tried faith. And then I thought, no, that's too easy. I'm going to try for heart. But nope, but I think I said it. So everyone drink now. Here we go. Here's our lightning round. Computer or pencil?
Pencil.
Morning or afternoon?
Pen. Pencil, not pen.
Morning or afternoon?
Morning.
Me too. Favorite food while drafting?
Oh, if I could, which I never do, cocoa with like orangey stuff in it. Dark chocolate cocoa with orangey stuff in it. I never have that though.
Do you let your family read your early drafts?
No.
I don't either.
Especially not my husband.
Right.
I want to stay. Yeah, I want to stay married to him till the day I drop dead. I heard that Jerry and Eileen Spinelli look at each other's work and give each other comments. If Reiner dared to give me a comment, I don't know.
I told my husband, your job is to say, I love you.
Exactly.
It's fabulous. That's all I see here.
Yes.
Yes. Chocolate cake or apple pie?
Oh, chocolate cake, definitely. I hate cooked fruit.
Okay, good to know. Favorite meal at Highlights?
Oh my goodness, all of them.
That's what everybody says. I'm going to say this again so no one forgets it. I like the French toast casserole.
Hey, yeah, and you know what? This is my time to plug in this favorite column that I'm writing for Highlights, which is called Foodie Fridays. And well, I call it Cooking Up Stories, and I let Chef Amanda do the Foodie Friday prompt. And I know that we're all we're having difficulties right now shopping in grocery stores, but I know Allison's chatted with Amanda about that. And what I do is we choose a book and I write a writing prompt that is based on that book. So you have a little bit of a flavor of the book, and you have a writing prompt, and you have a recipe that is in some way related to the writing prompt. And that's called Cooking Up Stories. And we have it under Foodie Fridays as well. And on the blog portion of my website, which is www.padmavenkatraman.com, I always post a link to that every month, and Highlights has it every month. It's the first Friday of every month.
Excellent. I love it. I love how many ways, different ways that we can get into reading and talking about writing. It makes me so happy. I'm going to start taking some questions. I think if I click on the tab, I'm going to see them. If I don't, I'm going to ask Allison for help. I see them. Excellent. All right. Padma, first tell everyone how you made your fabulous background.
Oh, it actually let me. So I went in, and I'm not the best person to tell you because I'm a Luddite a bit. And I went into the thing and it said, try a different background or something. So I said yes. And then I just sort of downloaded this picture that Penguin made for me. And it worked, and then I couldn't get rid of it. So try it. There's an option somehow. And it shouldn't be hard. If I could find it, everybody can find it. I am just the world's worst.
I'm going to try and make one today, and I'm going to post it on Facebook.
I think, all it is all you need is a picture. So you can put a picture, I believe, up there, like I said, and there must be a way to change it around and so on as well.
Excellent. There are a number of people who have said to me offline as well as on the chat that they're feeling really anxious and that social media is not working for them, and that they're thinking about deleting Facebook or deleting Twitter or to try. But is that, how are you dealing with it?
Yeah, it's important to me because I actually have anxiety issues, right? So I deal with that a lot. For me, what really helps and always has helped is yoga. And we spoke about this briefly, but yoga does not require another person all the time telling you. And in fact, wondering as we speak if maybe I should start doing something like that, or meditation at least, and maybe having something that I put out there that is just yoga or meditation. I'd say restrict the hours you spend, restrict how much you do a little bit, because otherwise you may feel like totally unconnected. So maybe you decide, like I do, I only do Facebook every Friday if I get a chance, and there's a small window of time, but that's not my most important thing. That's not my priority. I have everything else in the day, and then if I get to it, then I do it. And the same way with Twitter and with everything else, because otherwise you can be constantly on your phone. Restrict the amount of time. There are ways which I'd never have needed because I don't really get into this very much, so it's not a big distraction for me, but I know friends who have ways that they turn it off. They set it up so that it's really difficult for them to get onto it if they have to. So their computer shuts down and keeps them from doing any of these things. You can certainly do that. And really, like, doing something meditative every day.
I've also been doing yoga at home with my studio. If you have a yoga studio or one nearby, there are virtual classes being held all over the place. Down Dog is also Yoga International, also doing things. What I have found for all of you who are new to yoga, I am new to yoga, that I thought I needed the mirror, and I thought I needed the group, and I thought I needed the heat. And what I have found is just the words and my body and the space has been very meditative. And I'm learning something about myself, that I actually can have that internal focus and shut out the other stuff. As far as like weaning yourself off social media, all of us have a problem. Well, most of us have a problem. And I know that the hardest thing for me in that is that discipline. And so when I'm at my best, I have put up, I've given myself a schedule. So, and I have scheduled in Facebook and Twitter time so that it's part of my day. I have to follow my schedule. maybe I'll post my schedule somewhere today so that people can take a look and see what I'm doing. And you feel free to replicate.
And it's really hard again. I see teachers, Padma, I think it's really hard to do it online completely. That said, anything that gives you a sense of calm is great. And so all of these other resources that I consider to be sort of yoga light are fine. Please do them and take what you can from them. And if they give you strength and if they give you light and everything that you need, that is wonderful. So,
yeah. And remember,
absolutely.
When you fall off the wagon, which you will, everyone does, you forgive yourself. You say, I'm doing the best I can, and you start another day. I'll definitely post some sample writing schedules, daily schedules for those people who feel like they need them. I'll post them up on Facebook or on my website. I'll try and find some places for everyone to see that. I want to go to Marcia Wiener's question of, during this time we're being asked to live with an abundance of caution, how do you balance the need to take heed with an abundance of caution and still follow curiosity and invoke courage? And I'm going to let Padma speak to this, but what I'm going to say first is that when kids ask me where I get ideas, the two biggest places are imagination and memories. So like all the other stuff is after that. So when was the last time you let yourself sit quietly and imagine? When was the last time you journaled about your childhood? We are writers for children, and mine those memories. I'm going to give a writing exercise at the end of the hour that will speak to this. Go ahead.
So, do what you need to take care of yourself and then leave it at the door. So one of the things that I do in my writing life is that when I step, luckily now, after years of writing, like right by the shoes, and my computer was just where the shoes were. We used to take the shoes off in the house. That's where I had my whole writing desk. Now I actually have the luxury of a room where I can shut the door and I don't let anyone in. But even if you don't have that, when it's your time mentally, I've always done this, when it's my time to write, I shut everything, including the part of myself that is the na Padma, that shows up and she's like, you didn't write that right. You shut that down. Shut down the editor, Padma, send her away. Shut down all those voices and say, I'm leaving you at the door. Go away.
Go away. When I faced some writing challenges I seem to always be facing writing challenges. I don't know. My writing life is like a sine wave that periodically, one of the things that I remember to do, and you've reminded me, is that I actually have this piece of Wedgwood china, but really a Rubbermaid would do it. And I open up the Wedgwood china and I say, internal editor, I have a lovely seat for you. And then I close her in there and she can't get out. And then that is my freedom to be on my own and to write what makes me happy. What an amazing opportunity we have right now, writers, to write the book we always wanted to write, to go to the writing desk, be it pen, pencil, or computer, and work on the project that you want, that makes you happy, that you want to write. I think that is an amazing opportunity. George, do I have time for like 2 more questions?
I think we should roll to the writing prompt.
Okay, let us roll to the writing prompt.
But wait, before we roll to the writing prompt, we'll make a public service announcement about the Highlights Foundation resources. There was some conversation about Monday meditations, and I'm going to try to share my screen real quickly and show you. First off, we have a podcast, Into the Words by the Highlights Foundation. And if you subscribe to that podcast, you can find not only an interview with Sarah Aronson, but also one with Padma and many others. Also, if you're wondering, we're trying to keep up to date our schedule of where these workshops are, these online webinars. And so if you go to the Highlights Foundation website and you click on workshops and you scroll down, we have it right at the top, HF Gather, free online sessions. And we're trying to use that as a place where we're posting the upcoming sessions that you can register for, as well as a link to the previous recordings. And finally, our blog page, which has all of the recordings for the sessions we've done, as well as a whole bunch of great resources and blogs, including 24 articles involving Padma and 24 articles involving Sarah. So please, if you are looking for more content and resources while you're at home, while you're thinking about writing, we've got some information for you at the Highlights Foundation. Thanks for that public message. Sarah, on to you for the writing prompt.
All right. So today's writing prompt is one of my favorites, and it speaks to that question of how, if we have to stay home, where can we exercise our curiosity and our creativity? And so what I suggest for all of us to do today is to make a memory map. I first heard about this tool from Jack Gantos when I snuck in to a school visit that he was doing without permission. And so I'm not sure I should know that how to do this, but since hearing him say this, I have made 32 memory maps from different times of my life, different neighborhoods, all different things. So what you do is you're going to make a map of a place, draw, get out that pencil or pen, big piece of paper or a small, whatever works for you, and make a map of a place. It can be your neighborhood from childhood. It can be your bedroom. It can be the first floor of your house. It can be your elementary school. It can be the park that you used to love going to. And then instead of drawing all the different things that are in there, draw in the memories. So like I had my first kiss at the mailbox. And so always I draw the little big mailbox, little blue mailbox on the corner, and I put a big lip mark. So that's where I had my first kiss as a little girl. And then once I get started, my memory starts to flood me with other things, and I put them on the map and think about who I have been and what was important to me. And that always makes my brain swirl. And when my brain is swirling, that means that I'm going to have an idea, and then I can take it to my journal, and then I can take that to my manuscript. This exercise is just so important to me for my process of finding scenes and details that make those scenes come alive. So I hope it works for you. Let me know if it does.
I love that. Sarah, can I quickly add, I love the idea. I've never thought of it as a memory map, and not in the same way that I do, but I talk about using the pencil or the pen. And often when I talk about vomiting on the page, I actually there's an idea or a spark of something that creates a scene, and then I just take my pen and I scribble and scribble and I fill up a page with not necessarily sometimes strict figure drawings, sometimes whatever, but it's kind of a similar idea.
I believe in the magic of the pencil to the page. This is something I talk about all the time in all of my classes, that the pencil to the page, whether I'm scribbling or drawing squares or drawing my characters, which I like to do now. I'm going to do a study of lips this week. I'm going to do all sorts of mouths and learn how to draw mouths this week. Whenever I'm doing that, especially if I'm doing nothing that I think has anything to do with my manuscript, my brain will take a chill pill and it opens the door to ideas. And when we open the door to ideas, when we welcome inspiration and we're quiet because we're so busy doing this stuff, then stuff happens. And then imagination happens, and then story happens, And it's all coming from where? The heart, which is the best place for it to come from. So we're all happy. I'm going to just end by saying in the Rube Goldberg book, and just like Rube Goldberg, that he lived through the 1906 earthquake, and he did not give up on his dreams, even though when times are hard, it's easy to give up on your dreams. Don't give up on your dreams. Stay with your dreams. Your dreams are what are going to get us through this. We are all here together. We are a community living in times of uncertainty, and we have each other. And that means we will get through this. So I am very, this was a lovely hour. Padma, do you have some books to recommend for people?
Oh, you asked me to say the 3 books that I'm really excited about this year or something. One of them is High Five for Glenn Burke by Phil Bildner. The second one is by, Jenny Sanchez, and it's called We Are Not From Here. It's a YA novel, which I think is going to be a lot of fun. And oh my God, now I'm suddenly nervous because I lost a little piece of paper because my daughter just took it away accidentally. And I forgot the third book, but there are lots of books out there.
All right, I have 4, so I'm gonna be good. All right, so all these books are connected. Some of them are connected to highlights. So if you need to laugh, please read this book, The Mortification of Fovea Munson by Mary Wynn Hyder. I love this book. And last night when I thought, I'm going to have a cry, this is the book I pulled out. And I laughed. So I laughed. If you want like sci-fi sort of craziness and exploration and a world to take you to a new world, A Time Traveler's Theory of Relativity by our own Nicole Valentine. Hi, Nicole. I miss you. I love this book. It's also a great mentor text if you're writing an imbalanced 2 point of view book with a little bit of omniscience. I love it. 2 books coming out. No Vacancy by Zipporah Cohen. I had the pleasure of working with Zippy at different times. I'm now reading this book right now, and it is delicious and wonderful. And it comes out this fall. And coming out this spring, I just finished this book as well, Kelly Yang's Parachutes, and I just couldn't put it down. That's all I'm going to say. I could not put it down. I read this, it's fat, and I read it all in like one gulp because I had to know what was going to happen. So that is, please, if you have spare money for independent bookstores, please support your independent bookstores. If you are feeling tight with money, the best way to thank us is to spread the word about highlights or to post a review of either one of our books. I'm at 46 for Just Like Rube Goldberg. And I don't know what happens at 50, probably nothing, but it would be cool to get there. So that's all.
Yeah, and somebody was asking me, if you couldn't get on my website, I just saw something, spell my name right, and you will. It's just www.Padma Venkatraman. Please just look at the vowels and put them in there correctly, .com, and I promise, if you spelled it correctly, you will get there.
If you just Google Padma V, you get there too.
Oh, ha!
Oh, that's great. Sarah, Padma, thank you so much. Allison, any thoughts before we depart?
No, I'm just very grateful to have 2 such wonderful women here with us this morning, and we'll be sure to reach out and write those reviews today.
Thank you so much. And Allison, you'll send me the questions that we didn't get to.
Absolutely. Yep.
And so expect an email from me.
Sarah, please join us on Friday with Shadra Strickland and Kelly Light. It'll be great for your doodling.
I can't wait.
Yes, we'll
Thanks,
see you.
all.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Highlights. Thanks,
Thank
George.
you, Highlights. Thank you, George and Allison.
Bye.
Bye-bye.